In the quiet town of Oakwood, nestled between rolling hills and thick forests, there stood a lone Dunkin Donuts. It was an unassuming place, with its bright orange sign and welcoming aroma of freshly brewed coffee. But beneath its cheerful facade lurked a darkness that few dared to acknowledge. These are the true Dunkin horror stories that have haunted Oakwood for generations. It was a cold, foggy night when Sarah took her first shift at Dunkin Donuts. She had heard rumors about strange happenings during the midnight hours, but she needed the job desperately. As she cleaned the counters and restocked the shelves, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every creak of the floorboards sent shivers down her spine, and the shadows seemed to dance in the corners of her vision. As the clock struck midnight, Sarah heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps coming from the back room. She froze, her heart pounding in her chest. With trembling hands, she reached for the broom, ready to defend herself against whatever lurked in the darkness. But when she mustered the courage to investigate, she found nothing but an empty room, the air thick with an eerie silence. As the weeks passed, Sarah noticed a pattern emerging among the late-night customers. They would come in, order their coffee and donuts, and then vanish without a trace. No one ever saw them leave, and their cars remained parked outside long after they had disappeared into the night. Sarah tried to brush it off as a coincidence, but the feeling of unease only grew stronger with each passing night. One evening, as Sarah was wiping down the tables, she noticed a group of customers sitting in the corner booth. They were whispering to each other in hushed tones, their faces obscured by the shadows. Sarah approached them cautiously, but when she reached the booth, it was empty. The air was cold, and a chill ran down her spine as she realized that she was alone in the empty restaurant. The source of the strange happenings soon became clear to Sarah when she discovered the truth about the coffee machine. It was old and worn, with a history that stretched back to the earliest days of Dunkin Donuts. Legend had it that the machine was haunted by the spirits of past employees, trapped within its mechanical confines for all eternity. Sarah tried to ignore the rumors at first, but she couldn't deny the strange occurrences that seemed to center around the coffee machine. Cups would fly off the shelves, and the machine would turn on by itself in the dead of night, its whirring gears echoing through the empty restaurant. Sarah knew that she had to confront the source of the haunting if she ever hoped to find peace in Oakwood. Armed with nothing but her courage, Sarah delved into the history of the Dunkin Donuts and the dark forces that lurked within. She uncovered tales of ancient rituals performed by the founders of the restaurant, desperate attempts to harness the power of the supernatural for their own gain. It was said that these rituals had unleashed a darkness that had been trapped within the walls of Dunkin Donuts ever since. Determined to put an end to the curse once and for all, Sarah devised a plan to perform a counter-ritual, one that would banish the spirits and cleanse the restaurant of its dark past. With the help of a few brave friends, she gathered the necessary ingredients and prepared to face the unknown. As the clock struck midnight, Sarah and her friends assembled in the back room of Dunkin Donuts, ready to confront the spirits that haunted the restaurant. The air was thick with tension as they lit the candles and began to chant the ancient incantations. Shadows danced on the walls, and the temperature plummeted as the darkness closed in around them. But just as they were on the brink of success, something went horribly wrong. The coffee machine began to shake violently, its gears grinding against each other with a deafening roar. The spirits rose up in a fury, their spectral forms twisting and writhing in the darkness. Sarah and her friends fought bravely, but it was clear that they were no match for the ancient evil that had been unleashed. In a final act of desperation, Sarah reached for the ancient tome that lay on the floor beside her. With trembling hands, she recited the words of power, channeling all of her strength into one final incantation. As the words echoed through the room, a blinding light filled the air, and the spirits let out a deafening scream before vanishing into the void. When Sarah awoke, she found herself lying on the floor of Dunkin Donuts, the morning sun streaming in through the windows. Her friends were gathered around her, their faces pale and drawn with exhaustion. It was over, she realized. The curse had been broken, and Oakwood was safe once more. But as Sarah looked around at the empty restaurant, she couldn't shake the feeling of unease that lingered in the air. The true Dunkin horror stories would always be a part of Oakwood's history, a reminder of the darkness that lurked just beneath the surface of everyday life. And though the nightmares may fade with time, the memory of that fateful night would haunt Sarah and her friends for the rest of their days. As she stepped out into the morning light, Sarah knew that she would never look at Dunkin Donuts the same way again. For in the heart of Oakwood, amidst the rolling hills and thick forests, there stood a lone Dunkin Donuts. And within its walls, the true Dunkin horror stories would live on, waiting to be told to those brave enough